Hey there and welcome to Scandal Steep. There was a moment when Richard Pryor looked me in the eye and said with a quiet frustration, "Eddie doesn't like me. He just doesn't." I remember asking him, "What do you mean? Look at these interviews, Eddie's always giving you props." I even showed him articles where Eddie called him the greatest. But Richard wasn't convinced. He stared back at me and said, "You've been in this game long enough to know that ain't really him talking." That response said more than I think he realized. Hollywood is no stranger to tension between its stars, but few rivalries were as unique, complicated, and deeply personal as the one between Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. On paper, it looked like a match made in comedy heaven, two of the most iconic African-American comedians of all time, starring together in Harlem Nights and dominating the comedy scene in their own eras. But behind the scenes, the relationship was far from picture perfect. To truly understand what went wrong, you have to start with the origins of both men, how they rose, how they differed, and how the passing of the comedy torch didn't go as smoothly as fans hoped. Richard Pryor wasn't just a comedian, he was a revolutionary voice in American entertainment. His routines weren't designed for cheap laughs. They were raw, brutally honest reflections of real life, his life. Whether he was discussing racism, addiction, relationships, or his own emotional demons, Pryor laid everything bare on stage. His comedy was his therapy, and through it, he connected with audiences on a deeply human level. "It's hard enough just to be a decent human being," Pryor once said. "Just to go through life without losing your mind, that's the real struggle." That mindset shaped his art. He took his pain and turned it into something not only relatable but unforgettable. By the 1970s, Pryor wasn't just a stand-up comic. He was a movement reshaping how America understood comedy, storytelling, and black identity. Pryor's style wasn't polished or safe. He hit the stage like a storm, cigarette in hand, ready to say what others wouldn't dare. He didn't sugarcoat the black experience or play into stereotypes. Instead, he confronted racism head-on, made people uncomfortable, and then made them laugh at their own discomfort. That was Pryor's genius. Then came Eddie Murphy. Murphy entered the scene in a different era with a completely different vibe. He was young, smooth, and bursting with energy. While Pryor had clawed his way up through dingy clubs and hard years, Murphy exploded into the spotlight almost overnight. By the early 1980s, he was a star. Saturday Night Live launched him, and from there he took over Hollywood blockbuster after blockbuster, with stand-up specials that filled entire arenas. Murphy's comedy was less confessional and more performative. He was the master of impressions and physicality, jumping between voices and characters with incredible ease. His sets were flashy, fast-paced, and built for broad appeal. Where Pryor made you think, Murphy made you laugh till you couldn't breathe. He was electric. Despite their differences, Murphy always credited Pryor as the blueprint. He revered him, often calling Pryor the greatest comedian who ever lived. Murphy knew that without Pryor, he wouldn't have had a path to walk. But for all the admiration Murphy showed, Pryor never quite returned it. Pryor, known for never holding back, reportedly saw Murphy as more of a performer than a truth-teller. Sure, he was funny. Sure, he was talented. But Pryor questioned whether Murphy was using comedy to challenge systems or just to charm the crowd. In Pryor's eyes, Murphy didn't push boundaries, he coasted on charisma. And so, an unspoken tension started to form. Murphy idolized Pryor. Pryor didn't see Murphy as worthy of being his successor. As Murphy's fame skyrocketed in the 80s, Pryor was quietly fading from the spotlight. His health was in decline due to multiple sclerosis. His once unshakable presence on stage was slipping. The world was changing, and so was comedy. But deep down, Pryor couldn't ignore that Murphy was now the king of comedy, a throne he had once ruled. Then came Harlem Nights in 1989. This was supposed to be the moment of unity, the moment fans had dreamed of. Murphy wasn't just starring in the film, he was writing, directing, and calling all the shots. He assembled a dream cast of comedy legends: Richard Pryor, Red Fox, and Della Reese. It was meant to be historic. But instead of cinematic magic, the set became a battlefield. Murphy was only 28 at the time. He was still young, still figuring out the craft behind the camera. Pryor, on the other hand, had decades of experience and had already directed a film himself, JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. Being told what to do by someone he saw as a kid didn't sit well with him. According to Rashaan Khan, who was close to Pryor, there was a clear friction between the two. Pryor felt Murphy wasn't showing him the respect he'd earned not through outright disrespect, but through subtle arrogance. Murphy, for all his talent, came off like he knew it all. And for a man like Pryor, who had paid his dues 100 times over, that was tough to stomach. You could see it in how Pryor approached the film. He was usually a live wire on set, known for improvising and elevating every scene with spontaneous brilliance. But during Harlem Nights, he simply showed up, recited his lines, and left. No spark, no playfulness. It was as if he was just doing Eddie a favor, not truly invested in the project. Murphy had hoped for a deeper connection, maybe even a moment of mentorship. Instead, he got cold professionalism. Some say Pryor resented Murphy's success. Here was this young comic dominating the industry, making millions, getting the kind of deals Pryor had fought tooth and nail for, and doing it without half the struggle. Others believe Pryor simply didn't think Murphy was real enough. Pryor's comedy came from scars, deep, painful ones. His material was drawn from his personal battles, drug addiction, failed marriages, and run-ins with the law. Murphy's comedy, while brilliant, came from a much more theatrical place. It was safer and more digestible for mainstream audiences. Even Red Fox, another seasoned vet on the set, reportedly had his own issues with Murphy's leadership style. Fox wasn't shy about expressing that he didn't like how Murphy was handling things. The film's production was tense, filled with subtle power struggles. The younger generation led by Murphy was trying to run the show, while the old guard felt overlooked. What was supposed to be a celebration of black comedy legends turned into a quiet clash of egos.